To begin, let us define what heat waves are. The World Health Organization defines heat waves as extended periods of hot weather that can have a significant impact on society and the community. Heat waves are considered one of the most dangerous natural hazards, according to the World Health Organization. Although heat waves are considered one of the most dangerous natural hazards, this problem does not receive enough attention as its detrimental effects are not always visible. According to Watts, the number of people exposed to heat waves globally has increased significantly by around 125 million from 2000 to 2016. The study was further supplemented with a news article from CNN in 2022, which stated that hazardous levels of heat are expected to affect a significant portion of the world 3 to 10 times more frequently by the turn of the century as the effects of this human-caused climate change intensify. This reveals that the effects of heat waves are gradually occurring. On the 25th of April 2023, a news article from CNN reported that record-breaking heat waves are set to increase as the climate crisis intensifies. In accordance with the news article, Dan Mitchell, a professor in atmospheric sciences at the University of Bristol in the UK, stated that when an intensified scorching heat does finally come, there will be numerous problems that can occur as extreme heat is considered as one of the deadliest natural disasters. Another news article published on March 29, 2023 from Inquirer.net reported that the weather in the Philippines is transitioning from rainy season to dry season, which is expected to last until the month of May. Here, we have the heat index forecast for different places here in the Philippines. As we can observe in this photo, the heat index forecast for Lawag, General Santos, and Tacloban have all reached above 30 degrees Celsius, which is considered dangerous and can possibly lead to heat cramps and heat exhaustion. This data is further supplemented on the recent news published by GMA News Online on April 28, 2023. According to the news article, since last week, at least 500 students, 100 instructors, and non-teaching staff at one of the schools in Pasay City have been taken to the clinic after complaining of dizziness, headaches, and nosebleeds caused by the hot weather. With the incident that has occurred, the school requested the Department of Education to suspend face-to-face classes starting May 2. The school will temporarily hold their classes using the online platform to help the students, teachers, and non-teaching professionals prevent heat-related complications. According to Pag-asa, as of April 28 this year, the highest computed heat index reached 47 degrees Celsius, which is located in Eastern Samar. Davao City, on the other hand, has reached a heat index of 43 degrees Celsius as of April 29. Here, we can see the heat index of Davao City from April 25th to April 29th. As we can observe from the presented data, the average heat index of Davao City is at 41 degrees Celsius, which is classified as extreme caution. These data presented reveal that heat waves are experienced globally, including in our country, the Philippines. By understanding how timely and relevant the topic of heat waves are, we can be a step closer to beating the intensifying heat waves. As we approach the warmest month of the Philippines, the month of May, scorching temperatures are expected to have a significant effect on everyone. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and clinical instructors, and fellow student nurses, I welcome you all to our webinar entitled Beat the Heat, Protecting Vulnerable Populations During Heat Waves. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment and introduce our advocacy to unite for awareness, respond for emergency, strive for sustainability, and advocate for change in Davao City. The effects of heat waves to both humans and the environment are a significant problem we cannot afford to ignore. The intensifying heat wave that is occurring and will be occurring in the future can lead to devastating consequences if we do not act right now. This webinar is an opportunity for us to discuss the effects of heat waves, strategize what we can do during a heat wave, and to raise awareness by addressing the challenges of heat waves. Together, let us beat the heat. I would also like to introduce to you the speakers of this webinar. Two of the most outstanding students of 12A Group 2, Ms. Andrea Kate Cortesiano and Ms. Shirley Quinn Clarabal, With our exciting lineup of speakers, we hope that you will have a valuable experience and learn from our chosen topic. Please join me, your host for today, Carl J. Dela Cruz, in giving a warm welcome to our speakers.
Understanding heat waves. Heat waves are a natural phenomenon described as a period of unusually hot temperatures, typically lasting more than 2 days. This phenomenon is classified as a natural hazard capable of producing temperatures more than 40 degrees Celsius in certain regions. The exact cause of heat waves itself is due to increases in atmospheric pressure that somewhat acts like a dome that traps and accumulates heat near the surface area. With the temperature gradually increasing, like a hot air begins to fill the dome. Factors that have led towards the formation of heat waves vary between natural and man-made causes. Summer, or a season known for its hot weather, contributes significantly towards the formation of heat waves due to the warm conditions already presented by the weather itself. As for man-made causes, the most knowledgeable factor is climate change. The main influence of climate change that leads towards the increases of these extreme heat events is the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect, characterized as the release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, increases the density of the atmosphere, thus causing the trapping of the sun's heat and preventing it from reaching back into the atmosphere. Despite the various causes towards the formation of heat waves, the main concern is its effects towards vulnerable populations. Enduring the effects of heat waves for long periods are known to exacerbate one's health through presentation of heat-related illnesses. Here, we have selected 5 heat-related illnesses, most commonly to occur from the effects of heat waves. Starting off on more of the minor heat-related illnesses, at the very least, heat waves can present cases of sunburns from exposure of extreme heat towards the skin, specifically from ultraviolet radiation. Protection against this is done through maintaining hydration, usage of protective clothing or skin products, or generally avoiding direct sunlight. On the other hand, heat rashes may form from the obstruction of sweat ducts, especially in reaction towards extreme heat. This causes an irritating feeling of itchiness, redness, swelling, and an appearance of blisters and red spots on affected areas. Moving on, these next 3 illnesses are classified to be major in relation to the occurrences of heat waves. These heat-related illnesses are often viewed as stages, such as the stages of heat emergencies or stages of heat strokes, as the presence of these illnesses typically leads to the onset of the other. First is heat cramps. This is viewed as the first stage of heat emergency, as is described as muscle spasms due to overexertion of water and salt within the body. These spasms tend to stop on their own, but symptoms tend to linger up to 2 days. So the second stage of heat emergency, heat exhaustion. It is the heavy feeling of fatigue. Long periods of induration of the factors emitted by heat waves can cause a rise in the body temperatures, typically above 38 degrees Celsius, that are capable of causing life-threatening conditions if left untreated. And lastly, the third stage of heat emergency, heat stroke, is considered to be the most unfavorable condition to manifest from heat waves. This is caused by prolonged exposure to heat and reaches temperatures higher than of heat exhaustion, usually above 40 degrees Celsius. This presents additional symptoms along with the symptoms already presented by the previous stages, which the increased ability to be potentially fatal. More about these heat-related illnesses will be presented further on. Now, let's give insight on the current situation of heat waves in the Philippines. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, otherwise known as PAG-ASA for short, is an agency under the Department of Science and Technology tasked with providing information and protection towards natural calamities, including those regarding heat. There are various articles this year in regards to the general situation of heat in the Philippines, providing current information on the heat situation and estimations on expected temperatures to be experienced in the near future. Currently, daily heat indexes are provided by PAG-ASA, in which statistics are based on the combined air temperature and relative humidity, which results in the perceived temperature affecting the body. Based on the given results, the heat index can be classified into 4 different categories, which are caution, extreme caution, danger, and extreme danger, in which all 4 levels can produce effects as expected to be manifested from actual heat waves. In the Davao region, as of April 25 to April 29 of this year, heat index temperatures have been constantly reading about 37 degrees Celsius towards 43 degrees Celsius, which is categorized as extreme caution or danger, which are temperatures known to cause heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat strokes if exposure is prolonged. As of now, it is expected for temperatures to further increase in the month of May, with expected readings about 38 degrees Celsius in the lowlands of Mindanao. For it to be deemed as a heat wave, temperatures that are considered high depending on the general area or region being affected must exceed a certain threshold that is considered as high temperature and generally lasts more than 2 days.
Identifying vulnerable populations. So, we have, under the heat workers, communities without proper ventilation, agriculture, squatter area, elderly people and children, and pregnant women. We all know extreme heat is a silent killer whose impacts are certain to grow, posing huge challenges to sustainable development and creating new emergency needs that will demand a humanitarian response. The impacts of extreme heat are hugely unequal in both social and geographic terms. In a heat wave, the most vulnerable and marginalized people, including casual laborers, agricultural workers, and migrants, are pushed to the front lines. The elderly, children, and pregnant and breastfeeding women are at higher risk of illness and death associated with high ambient temperatures. These impacts are not restricted to high-income countries. Developing countries such as Africa, Asia, and Latin America have experienced severe heat-related emergencies in recent years. Indeed, almost everywhere that reliable data is available, heat waves are the deadliest weather-related hazard. The dangers posed by extreme heat are growing at an alarming rate due to climate change. While the effects of heat may be exacerbated in cities due to the urban heat island or UHI effect, the livelihoods and well-being of non-urban communities can also be severely disrupted during and after periods of unusually hot weather. Heat waves can burden health and emergency services and also increase strain on water, energy, and transportation, resulting in power shortages or even blackouts. Food and livelihood security may also be strained if people lose their crops or livestock due to the extreme heat. Specifically, suburban areas with high sensitivity and a limited adaptive capacity are especially vulnerable to these heat waves. Therefore, the influence of urbanization on urban vulnerability may be synthesized and classified. To be specific, the exposure level and sensitivity factors increase along with the urbanization process, although high temperatures adaptability is also enhanced because of the increasing social awareness and economic level of residents. Now, rising global ambient temperatures affect all populations. However, some populations are more exposed to or more physiologically or socioeconomically vulnerable to physiological stress, exacerbated illness, and an increased risk of death from exposure to excess heat. These include the elderly, infants, and children, pregnant women, outdoor and manual workers, athletes, and the poor. Extreme heat may affect older people more than others. Heat-related illness occurs when the body can't cool itself and maintain a healthy temperature. The body normally cools itself by sweating, but sometimes sweating isn't enough and the body temperature keeps rising. Infants and younger children also have more trouble regulating their body temperature, in part because they often do not recognize when they should drink more water or remove clothing to cool down. Workers and athletes are exposed for longer durations and at greater intensities, hazards, and exposure to higher temperatures with more frequent periods of heat. This may result in greater heat stress, potentially leading to more cases of heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke, heat exhaustion, increased susceptibility to chemical exposure, and fatigue. Pregnant women are particularly vulnerable. Heat waves increase the chances of going into labor early, having a stillbirth, or having a baby with low birth weight. The urban poor are especially vulnerable to heat stress and associated health and productivity impacts, as they often work outdoors and tend to live in overcrowded houses without adequate ventilation or cooling.
Prevention strategies for heat-related illnesses. Extreme heat may contribute to other forms of disasters. Heat waves can be a burden on medical and emergency services, as well as in increasing the demand for water, energy, and transportation, leading to power outages or shortages. When individuals lose livestock or crops due to extreme heat, their ability to feed and support themselves may also be threatened. The importance of addressing this will raise awareness of the problems such as heat waves and climate change that are affecting everything all around the world. Our understanding and knowledge of the things we can do to help minimize or reduce the problem regarding heat waves will broaden as we address the important factors that can help prevent the problems associated with intense heat. To protect ourselves during heat waves, strategies include self-care interventions such as staying hydrated. So hydration is important at all times, but it's extremely important now more than ever. Drink 1 cup of water every 15 to 20 minutes if you're working under the heat. This equates to 24 to 32 ounces every hour. It is more beneficial to consume smaller quantities consistently than larger amounts infrequently. Do not consume more than 48 ounces or 112 liters in 1 hour. Prevent extreme dehydration by staying hydrated before heading outside. The total state of hydration is not just dependent on water. Having other beverages and foods with high water content counts as well. Hydrating foods include watermelon and other melons, tomatoes, cucumber, strawberries, and etc. Second, we must stay cool. So the brain and other organs may be harmed by too much heat. It's important to keep the body cool when the days are hot. Try to spend as much time indoors where it is air conditioned and take cool baths or showers to cool down. Wear loose, lightweight, light-colored clothing. It will also help avoid overheating, because dark hues absorb heat and make you feel hotter, while light colors could deflect the sun's rays. Sunscreen is also a must. The body's capacity to cool down can be affected by sunburn, which can also lead to dehydration. Just one tip, we must check the labels of our sunscreens. Look for the words broad spectrum or UVA, UVB protection, as they are the ones that work best. Lastly, stay informed. Watch the local news for alerts about extreme heat and keep updated on the internet and social media for news and updates. Identify any local cooling shelters and safety precautions. Try to find out about the signs and symptoms and on how to recognize and manage or heat-related illnesses. Now, for monitoring for the signs of heat-related illnesses, we have here 5 specific illnesses, and let us try to check on what to look for and how to prevent these from happening. So what to look for in heat exhaustion? Look for heavy sweating, cold, pale, and clammy skin, fast, weak pulse, nausea or vomiting, muscle cramps, tiredness or weakness, dizziness, headache, fainting, or passing out. Next, what to look for in heat stroke? Look for high body temperature that is of 103 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, hot, red, dry, or damp skin, fast, strong pulse, headache, dizziness, nausea, confusion, losing consciousness or passing out. Next, what to look for in heat cramps? Look for heavy sweating during intense exercise and muscle pain or spasms. So what to look for in sunburns? Look for painful, red and warm skin, blisters on the skin, and what to look for in heat rash. Look for red clusters of small blisters that look like pimples on the skin, usually on the neck, chest, groin, or in elbow creases. So those are the signs and symptoms of each 5 specific heat-related illnesses. Now, let us educate ourselves on how to prevent all these. So to prevent these heat-related illnesses, we must invest in clothing. So choose and wear lightweight, light-colored, loose-fitting clothing plus a wide-brimmed hat. Rehydrate. Drink extra fluids containing electrolytes such as sports drink. And do not drink sugary or alcoholic with caffeine beverages to rehydrate. Also, avoid intense exercises in hot or very humid conditions. Limit exercise on very hot days. Stay out of the sun from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. because this is when the sun's UV rays are the strongest. Wear sunscreen with a sun protection factor or SPF of 30 or higher. So use sunscreen even in the shade. Use air conditioning, fans, cool showers to stay cool. And then dry skin thoroughly before applying any skin products. Now moving on to the prevention strategies that are specific for the vulnerable population. Vulnerable population are those who are at greater risk, and these are infants and young children, people 65 years of age and older, people who are overweight, people who overexert during work or exercise, people who are physically ill, or those who have maintenance medications. The general preventive measures to help avoid heat-related illnesses on these specific vulnerable population include to never leave the young children or infants in a parked car even if the windows are open. Visit adults at risk at least twice a day and closely watch them for signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Infants and young children, of course, need much more frequent watching. Make sure that they are getting sufficient fluids. Avoid extremely cold beverages and those that contain a lot of sugar, caffeine, and alcohol. Get them out of the sun and stay inside a cool, ideally air-conditioned place. Shower, bath, or sponge off with cool water. Use a buddy system. Let them lie down and rest. And in addition to these, earlier we have already discussed and identified vulnerable population in Davao City. And these are the vendors, delivery riders, traffic enforcers, and commuters. Everyone can no longer ignore extreme heat events. To prevent heat-related illnesses and fatalities, drink water every 15 minutes even if you are not thirsty. Rest in the shade to cool down. For vendors, invest in large umbrellas. To at least you and your goods will not be too exposed to the heat. Wear a hat and light-colored clothing. Learn the signs of heat illness and what to do in an emergency. Keep an eye on fellow workers. Easy does it on your first days of work in the heat. you need to get used to it. And they might also need electrolyte replacement drinks. So those are drinks that replace electrolytes lost by perspiration and maintain the body's ideal fluid balance to keep workers staying hydrated. Hydration packs. So these hydration equipment have a reservoir or bladder that can hold water or another hydrating beverage built into a backpack or waist pack. Fans and blowers. Fans and blowers that help avoid heat stress provide personal or area cooling, ranging from handheld misting devices. Sun shelters. Workers can have protection from the sun using umbrellas, tents, canopies, and other temporary portable structures. Heat stress training. Programs that are available for educating people to identify the symptoms and signs of heat stress and to get them prepared to perform first aid if necessary. The right precautions to take to prevent heat stress at work may also be imparted to workers during training. Heat-related illness can occur to anyone at any time. The keys to staying healthy during these scorching temperatures are prevention and awareness.
Emergency response to heat-related illnesses. Heat-related illnesses can be serious and potentially life-threatening conditions. As temperatures rise during the summer months, it's crucial to take immediate action if you or someone else is experiencing symptoms of these illnesses and reactions. When the body overheats and becomes dehydrated, it can cause a range of symptoms that can quickly worsen, leading to serious complications. Having knowledge and skills in first aid regarding heat-related illnesses is essential because it can help save lives. Heat waves occur when a region experiences several consecutive days of high temperatures and high humidity levels. The most serious health-related illness is heat stroke, which can be life-threatening. Common health-related illnesses that usually occur to a person suffering high body temperature due to hot and humid climate are, as mentioned earlier, heat stroke, heat exhaustion, heat cramps, heat rash, and sunburn. In September of 2002, the late Davao City Mayor Rodrigo Duterte took great pride in his dream project, the Davao City's Central 911, as the only one in the country and one of the only 3 places in the world that had such an emergency response rescue system at that time. On May 25, 2018, the late President Rodrigo Duterte signed Executive Order Number 56, institutionalizing the use of 911 as the nationwide emergency hotline number. The Central 911 in Davao City has been committed with its mission to provide the people with quality and efficient emergency response services to the people in Davao City. According to the official website of Davao City Central 911, the response team is fully equipped with state-of-the-art facilities and advanced resource equipment and tools for various emergency needs and concerns. The Central 911 is composed of the following operational units: Emergency Calls, Answering Point and Dispatch, Emergency Medical Services, Urban Search and Rescue, Fire Auxiliary Services, where each of these services serves a purpose. In hot and humid climates, such as in Davao City, where temperatures can reach as high as 35 to 38 degrees Celsius or 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit during the summer months, heat stroke is a very real and dangerous threat. In fact, the Philippines has been identified as one of the countries most vulnerable to heat stroke due to its geographical location and climate. In Davao City, 911 is the primary emergency response number that can be called upon during the times of crisis, including heat stroke emergencies, of course. Upon calling 911, the operator will ask for the location of the emergency and the nature of the situation, and it is important to remain calm and provide clear and accurate information to the operator, including the symptoms of the person experiencing heat stroke. The operator of the emergency calls answering point and dispatch will send off an ambulance, and the emergency medical services, or the EMS, will team to the location of the emergency as quickly as possible. In Davao City, the 911 system is staffed with trained medical professionals who can provide instructions and guidance for administering first aid to the person experiencing heat stroke before the arrival of the ambulance or EMS team. The operator may provide guidance in how to lower the person's body temperature by doing first aid measures and interventions even before the arrival of the medical and emergency team. In conclusion, it is important to be aware of the signs and symptoms and to take preventive measures to avoid it. However, in the event that someone does experience heat stroke, it is crucial to call 911 in Davao City to receive immediate medical attention and increase their chances of recovery.
If you suspect someone is suffering from the aforementioned heat-related illness, it's important to take immediate action to help them cool down and seek medical attention if necessary. Heat stroke may start off with the following signs, such as heat exhaustion and heat cramps. When heat exhaustion is not treated, it can immediately lead to heat stroke in just 10 to 15 minutes. Other bodily reactions to heat can also be distinguished as heat rash and sunburn. Whenever these signs and symptoms of heat illnesses and reactions occur to a person, it's necessary to take action to prevent worsening the situation. Let's run through the first aid measures and treatments for these illnesses and reactions one by one. We will start off with heat stroke. Heat stroke. Imagine walking on a sidewalk on a hot sunny day. You were able to pass a group of people who were in a line waiting for something. Let's say very important documents to pass. Somebody then shouts for help as one of those people loses consciousness with a hot, dry skin and a seizure. As an individual, what would you do in this type of situation? So according to the Department of Health, these following first aid measures will help someone to lessen the severity of heat stroke. Move the person to a cooler area. When a person experiences a heat stroke, their body's ability to regulate temperature fails, leading to a rapid increase in body temperature. Moving the person to a cooler area helps to reduce their body temperature and prevent further heat-related damage. A cooler environment reduces the heat stress on the body and enables it to dissipate the heat more effectively. Moving the person away from direct sunlight and into a shaded or air-conditioned area can provide relief and prevent the heat from exacerbating the situation. Call 911 for emergency medical assistance. Heat stroke is a medical emergency that requires immediate treatment, so it is essential to call for professional help as soon as possible, such as the 911 emergency system in Davao City. Elevate the legs. Heat stroke can lead to dilation of blood vessels, leading to a decrease in blood pressure and potential shock. Elevating the legs helps improve blood flow and circulation, which aids in preventing shock. By elevating the legs, blood is directed away from the legs, allowing it to return to the heart and brain, preventing pooling and low blood pressure. Improved circulation also enhances the distribution of nutrients and oxygen throughout the body, improving the body's ability to recover. Provide cool fluids. Dehydration is a common complication of heat stroke, which can exacerbate the situation and lead to further complications. Offering fluids to the person helps to rehydrate the body and replace lost fluids due to sweating. Rehydration helps to normalize body temperature, reduce heat stress, and prevent complications such as kidney damage or organ failure. So these fluids also help to restore electrolyte balance, which is crucial for proper body function and recovery. Providing cool fluids such as water or sports drinks can help replace fluids lost through sweating and help lower the body temperature. Remove any excess clothing. Excess clothing impedes the body's ability to cool down, leading to heat retention and further worsening the situation. By removing excess clothing, the body can dissipate heat more effectively, allowing for an increased airflow and evaporation of sweat. Shoes and socks are also removed to enhance heat dissipation through the feet, which contain many blood vessels that aid in heat loss. Additionally, removing excess clothing allows for better access to the skin, enabling the use of cooling methods such as applying cool water or fanning the person. Cool the person down. Applying cool water to the skin helps to lower the body temperature and provide relief from the heat. The water evaporates from the skin, taking heat away from the body and cooling it down. Cool water also helps to lower the skin temperature, which can have a systemic cooling effect on the body. Areas with many blood vessels close to the skin surface, such as the neck, armpits, and groin, are targeted to maximize heat loss. Wetting the skin also helps to replace lost fluids due to sweating, which aids in rehydration. Fan the person. Using a fan or any other item that can create a breeze helps to cool the person down by increasing air circulation around their body. The breeze accelerates the evaporation of sweat from the skin surface, which further reduces body temperature. The increased airflow also helps to dissipate the heat generated by the body, reducing the heat stress on the body. Fanning the person also helps to enhance comfort, especially when combined with other cooling methods such as applying cool water. Monitor the person's vital signs. Check the person's vital signs such as their pulse and breathing rate, and monitor their level of consciousness. This can help to identify any changes in their condition and alert medical professionals if necessary. Heat exhaustion. Moving on to heat exhaustion is a condition that occurs when the body's internal temperature rises above normal levels due to exposure to high temperatures and high humidity. This condition can be serious and potentially life-threatening if left untreated, and it can lead to the emergence of heat stroke. According to the University of Rochester Medical Center 2023, these following first aid measures will help a person to lessen and treat signs and symptoms of the following heat illness. Move to a cool place and rest. When someone is experiencing heat exhaustion, it is important to move them to a cool place and have them rest. This helps to remove them from the hot and humid environment and reduce their overall body temperature. Resting also helps to conserve energy and reduce the risk of further exhaustion. Moving to a cool place and resting allows the body to recover from the heat exposure and regain its equilibrium.
Collaboration
And advocacy.
Our advocacy roots from our common goal of awareness, prevention, response, and collaboration towards the health-deteriorating heat waves, hoping to educate the Davaoeños. And with that common goal, we advocate to unite for awareness,
Respond for emergency.
strive for sustainability, and
Advocate for change in Davao City. We advocate to educate Davaoeños to not disregard this type of weather condition. We advocate to protect everyone, especially the vulnerable population, from the risk of extreme heat. We advocate to take part in implementing measures for the safety and preparedness of everyone.
we can make this possible through the help of our barangay communities, non-government organizations, private sectors, and government. Through joint collaboration of different sectors, information dissemination, even to the farthest area, is a lot easier. Change is then guaranteed in Davao City. In different government and private agencies have already called for changes or alterations in the policy to cope with the extreme heat that we are experiencing.
The Department of Education, or DepEd, suggested temporarily resorting to remote learning as the face-to-face classroom setup is no longer ideal and conducive for learning. They are also looking at the possibility of reverting the school calendar, bringing back the school breaks in April to May, as these are referred to as a period of dry season and considered to be the hottest months in the Philippines.
Shortening of face-to-face class hours and cutting the class size to a maximum of 25 students per class with enough electric fans and air conditioning system is also seen as temporary solution. Aside from DepEd, the Metro Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, also came up with a temporary solution to traffic enforcers and street sweepers to help them cope with hot weather.
MMDA is now re-implementing the heat break policy wherein traffic enforcers and street sweepers will have a 30-minute break and an additional 15-minute break if the heat index reaches 40 degrees Celsius and above. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, issued an order for automatic suspension of outdoors and indoors work if Pag-asa announces a very high temperature level.
They also have ensured that these workers are still paid when their work is suspended. Recently, a prestigious school here in Davao City released a memorandum on the changes on their dress code policy as they allowed wearing of shorts given that it follows the acceptable length and type. They had modified their policy to ensure a safe and comfortable learning environment during warmer months.
Aside from abiding by the policy changes of the different sectors, the community can also play its part in mitigating the heat that we are currently experiencing. We can work hand in hand with small communities in promoting and implementing different sustainable solutions. Initiation of tree planting activities and promoting urban vegetation is one of the activities that can be done as trees provide shade and cooling effect to the ground. Another is increasing the use of renewable energies, such as using solar energy to power houses or even just a single pole of light each night.
Cool roofs. Green roofs and walls can also be used by establishments around the community to mitigate heat, as cool roofs reflect more sunlight and absorb more heat, and on the other hand, vegetation on green roofs and walls acts as insulator as they absorb heat. The most common activity that the community can take part in the reduction and control of pollutants. People could switch from using single-use plastics to a sustainable and reusable materials, or use paper as an alternative material to polyethylene, the widely used plastic in the world.
Let's have a brief review of what we have discussed earlier. According to the World Health Organization, or the WHO, heat waves are extended periods of hot weather that can have a significant impact on society and the community. Heat waves can occur with or without high humidity. This occurs when there's a high pressure in the atmosphere that forces hot air downwards and traps it near the ground. Extreme heat events can be dangerous to health, even fatal. These events can result in increased hospital admissions for heat-related illnesses, as well as cardiovascular and respiratory disorders. Extreme heat events can trigger a variety of heat stress conditions, such as heat stroke. So we have here the stages of heat emergencies, or stages of heat stroke, which can be understood for the manifestation of the following heat-related illnesses. This includes heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat strokes itself. As for those who are most vulnerable towards the effects of heat waves, these tend to include the following people in our society, which includes the senros, vendors, delivery riders, traffic enforcers, and commuters. In order to determine those undergoing heat-related illnesses, there are four main symptoms of heat-related illnesses that can be identified that can determine if either we or possibly someone else who may be experiencing it. This includes the following symptoms, which are headaches, feeling sick or being sick, excessive sweating and skin becoming pale, clammy, or getting a heat rash, though a change in skin color can be harder to detect on brown and black skin. and lastly, cramps in the arms, legs, and stomach. The symptoms of heat-related illnesses are often the same in adults and children, although children may become irritable too. So what do we do against the unbearable heat? Here we have listed three main actions to be taken in the case of a heat wave, which is to stay hydrated, stay cool, and to stay informed. If you're outside, find shade or wear a hat wide enough to protect your face, or even use an umbrella. Drink plenty of fluids to stay hydrated and to replenish those lost fluids from sweating. Also, avoid performing high energy activities or working outdoors, especially during midday heat if possible. Now, lastly, we have here is who to call in case of emergency. If there has been an emergency requiring additional assistance, especially a health emergency, we have our nationwide emergency hotline number, which can be dialed through 911. Heat waves can burden health, emergency services, and also increase strain on water, energy, and transportation, resulting in power shortages or even blackouts. Food and livelihood security may also be strained if people lose their crops and livestock due to extreme heat. To reduce heat waves, we have to install cool and green roofs and cool pavements to reduce the urban heat island effect. Planting trees to provide shade and to cool the air through evapotranspiration, pursuing energy efficiency to reduce demand on the electricity grid, especially during heat waves, is important to give focus on this problem as is one of the consequences of global warming. In conclusion, within the next 10 years, if climate change projections are correct, this could result in annual deaths from heat waves. The already high heat-related death toll remains largely invisible to the general public and many policymakers. Complex reasons account for this are lack of visibility, including the nature of the victims, the lack of property damage heat waves create, and cognitive mechanisms that causes delay public and policymakers to underestimate the risks of excess heat, and in turn, it fails to take steps to mitigate its worst effects. Nevertheless, the mechanisms to avoid high numbers of heatwave death exist. The central question is whether vulnerable jurisdictions will act before a calamitous heatwave occurs. Some promising signs exist, including the National Weather Service's extension of its localized heat warning system to all cities with greater populations, as well as sophisticated heat response plans. But much discouraging evidence exists as well, including a remarkable lack of readiness in many vulnerable cities. While the unfortunate odds are that disaster will strike in these unprepared cities, an outcome all the more troubling because it's both predictable and avoidable. Studies of global heat waves and their impact on health have been successful in some regions, but the global population at highest risk of death and illness from extreme heat is underestimated. Research on heat waves and their impact on health is needed in areas expected to be most severe. And with that, this is BSN 12A Group 2 as we advocate to unite for awareness, respond for emergency, strive for sustainability, and advocate for change in Davao City.